Chevrolet's streak of 11, yes, 11 straight pole positions at the Daytona 500 has been snapped. And for a bit there, it looked like it was going to be Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell, he was the second or third car to go out in that second round of qualifying, with the last 10 guys all going for pole position. And then William Byron went, and he couldn't match or better McDowell's time. Chase Elliott went, another Hendrick Motorsports car, could not match or better Michael McDowell's time. Then, Penske Ford started to go. Austin Cindric could not match or better Michael McDowell's time. Then the final Hendrick car, Kyle Larson, could not match or better Michael McDowell's car, which meant it came down to one guy, Joey Logano, and Joey Logano hit it out of the park. So yes, Joey Logano is on pole for the Daytona 500, and I believe that they said that that's Team Penske's first ever Daytona 500 pole. But yes, a lot of streaks were snapped tonight, guys, with Joey Logano winning this pole. As I said, it's his first Daytona 500 pole. It's the first time since 2012, when Carl Edwards was at Roush Fenway Racing, that a non-Chevrolet has won the pole. It's the first time since 2014 that there's no Hendrick Motorsports cars on the front row. I already told you about the Chevrolet streak that got snapped. A lot of streaks ended tonight for Chevrolet, Hendrick Motorsports, whoever it may be. It's an all-Ford front row, as I said, with Michael McDowell being second. He will lead off the second dual race on pole. And then Joey Logano on pole for the Daytona 500. He will lead the field to green tomorrow in the first duel, and also on Sunday in the Daytona 500 if he does not wreck in the duel. So yes, an all-Ford front row. We're going to talk about qualifying, some of the highlights. We're going to talk about who clinched their spots into the Daytona 500 tonight, because that is a huge topic. And we're going to talk about who has to fight their way in tomorrow night. So for those of you who don't know, it's 40 cars, or in this case 42 cars, into the Daytona 500 qualifying. That first round, everyone gets one lap. You get your warm-up lap, but then you get your hot lap, your fast qualifying lap. And whatever that time is, that's what you get. If you make the top 10, you advance to the second round of qualifying, and those 10 drivers do the same thing. They get one warm-up lap, and then they get their hot lap, and the fastest out of those 10 in that second round is on pole, and that ended up being Joey Logano. Here was your top 10 from the qualifying. I guess I could show you the results here. Joey Logano's on pole, Michael McDowell second, Kyle Larson third, Austin Cindric fourth, Chase Elliott fifth, William Byron sixth, Austin Dillon seventh, Kyle Busch eighth, Ross Chastain ninth, Harrison Burton 10th. Something interesting you might notice about this top 10, zero Toyotas. Toyota, they've never been strong at qualifying at Daytona particularly, but today was extra bad. I think their best car was 22nd, I want to say. It was really, really bad for Toyota today in the qualifying, but do not worry. They usually do fine in the race. They do good in the duels. So come Sunday, I think they will be positioned better. Remember, the qualifying lineup is not set. This basically sets up the dual lineups, except for Logano and McDowell. As long as they don't crash, they'll start first and second on Sunday. But every other position is more than likely to change for Sunday. If you finish, the dual 1 sets the inside row of the Daytona 500. Duel 2 sets the outside row of the Daytona 500. So you'll see in the first duel, you'll see Logano, Larson, Elliott, Dillon, Ross Chastain, the guys that are odd number qualifying positions in the first duel, guys in the even number qualifying positions in the second duel, and eventually that's how the lineup gets set. But as I said, Toyota struggled, and that affected 7-time champion Jimmie Johnson. He's going to have to race his way into the Daytona 500 tomorrow during the duels. I think he's in that second duel. Correction, he is in the first duel. In fact, I have the clinching scenarios for you. But let's first talk about the guys who actually locked into the main event. That first one being Anthony Alfredo. What a story for Beard Motorsports, a family-run team. Runs part-time, runs these super speedways the majority of the time. They've run with Brendan Gaughan in the most part in the past, but they have since been driving with Anthony Alfredo every once in a while, and they've had Noah Gragson in that car before. But today, I will say, I did not have them qualifying their way in via time, via their speed. I had them maybe getting in the duel, and that even wasn't a set thing. But I think that they were the fastest qualifier out of the open teams, And that was a surprise to me, but the greatest thing about this is the excitement on Anthony Alfredo, Brendan Gaughan, that whole team's face when eventually they realized they were clinched into the Daytona 500. And that's what I love about having more than 40 cars in the field. When you have these open spots, when it's qualifying is more important than ever in NASCAR, when you're not guaranteed a spot, it makes making a race much better. It makes, you feel so much better, like you've accomplished more. But also because it's the Daytona 500. You may never get this opportunity again, or this opportunity may not get this close ever again. So when you have it, you want to take it and you want to go and get into the Daytona 500 while you can. And that is what Anthony Alfredo did. But it did come at the expense of Kaz Grala. And this is my problem. Once again, congratulations to Anthony Alfredo. They more than likely, they would have clinched on speed regardless of what happened with Kaz Grala. They were faster than David Ragan. They were faster than all of the other open cars. So they would have made it regardless. But Kaz Grala, while doing his out lap, his warm-up lap, getting up to speed, they had a mechanical problem. And my problem with this is that NASCAR the past couple of years has stepped away from doing more practice, having 2-3 practice sessions, and they have done simply a 20-minute practice session in qualifying. But for the Daytona 500, the past couple of years, it's been qualifying, duels, race. So if you have a problem with the car, something, came unhooked in the engine on the drive to the track with the hauler, or, getting the car off the hauler, something went wrong, and you can't realize it, you don't notice it, you've got no time to fix that. You've got no time to diagnose that problem. And that is my biggest problem with this, is that this is the biggest race of the year. This is the biggest payout race. It's the biggest trophy. This is the biggest race, the one that everyone wants to win, or everyone wants to race in at the very least. And to not give these teams an opportunity to essentially shake down their cars, warm up their cars, figure out if there's any problems with them, even just a 30, 45-minute practice session, just one of them, would be great so that these teams can diagnose those problems, get those problems addressed, fix the issues, and then eventually be ready to qualify and give everyone a fair shot. So that's my biggest problem. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. I've said this before. It's happened before. But ultimately, I just would want to see 1 or 2 practice sessions before the Daytona 500 qualifying so that we don't have this issue in the future. Now, as for the other car who made it, David Ragan in the RFK third car, the number 60, the stage 60 car. David Ragan has won at Daytona before, but not the 500. He came really close in 2011. He's going to be a legitimate threat on Sunday, I think. We'll talk about him more on Friday in my Daytona 500 preview, but genuinely, he's a great super speedway racer. RFK puts together great super speedway cars. I'm not shocked to see him in on speed. He was one of my picks to make it in on speed. So no shock to see him in there. But here are the clinching scenarios. So in Duel 1, we'll have Anthony Alfredo, Jimmie Johnson, and J.J. Yeley. Duel 2, we'll have David Ragan, B.J. McLeod, and Kaz Grala. If Jimmie Johnson is the best in his duel, or if Alfredo or Ragan or McLeod best in duels, McLeod is in if best in duel, or if Alfredo or Johnson best in duel 1 and Ragan best in duel 2, Yeley and Grala can only race in. It's a very complicated process, but basically it's based off time, right? But if the guys who had the fastest time, so if Anthony Alfredo or David Ragan, if they end up being the top open car in their duel, then it shifts to whoever was fastest in qualifying. So we go back to today to see who is fastest in each duel. And so that would go to Jimmie Johnson in the first duel. That would go to B.J. McLeod in the second duel. It's very confusing. It's overly complicated, but that's how it works. But yes, we are going to have to see if Jimmie Johnson can qualify his way into the Daytona 500. Toyota, once again, just a struggle of a day in terms of qualifying. But once again, they have never been the qualifying type at this race. They have always been race pace, race speed, and it's shown up for them. While Chevrolet has dominated the qualifying, they've won all these pole positions, they don't have a lot of race wins to show for it. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. last year, but before that, I think Austin Dillon 2018, so a 5-year gap there, whereas we've seen Toyota win consecutive Daytona 500s. We've seen Ford win consecutive Daytona 500s. So while Chevy has really dominated the qualifying, Toyota and Ford have really dominated the race in terms of winning. So we'll see how these duels end up tomorrow. But yeah, that's all I got for tonight. Joey Logano's on pole for the Daytona 500. Michael McDowell on the front row. Who would have seen that coming? But ultimately, it should be a fun race on Sunday if it does happen Sunday. But the duels tomorrow should be fun. I'll do a recap for those as I always do. I'm looking forward to it. Some racing at Daytona is always fun. But 21 cars in each duel should be fun. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. If you're happy that Logano won the pole, what your reaction was to McDowell making it on the front row, Anthony Alfredo making the race, David Ragan making the race. And once again, I will see you guys in tomorrow's video.